ever get that feeling? Like, even the stuff you think you know, there's this whole other layer underneath.
Oh, absolutely.
Today, we're really diving deep, right into something I bet most of us have around the Bible.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're going behind the scenes, see how this book, or really books, how they came together.
Right.
And I gotta say, what we found researching this, way more complicated, way more interesting than I ever expected.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way people talk about the Bible now, it's like
Ah,
they picture this straight line, simple.
totally.
But for the folks who actually wrote these texts, shared them, lived them, nothing was simple.
No time machine for us, sadly, but we got the next best thing.
What's that?
This scholarly article, it's called Rethinking the Concept of Bible, Some Theses and Proposals.
Okay, getting right into it. I like
Yeah.
that.
Right. Just the title alone, I'm already hooked.
Makes you think.
Okay, so they jump right in talking about the biblical canon, that whole like official list of which books are considered, the sacred ones.
Right, right.
But here's what gets me. Did ancient Judaism even have that? This idea of a canon?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it makes us rethink everything.
Yeah.
Short answer, not really.
Yeah.
Nope. Instead of one set list everyone agree on, ancient Judaism, it was diverse. Different groups, different communities. They had their own texts that they valued, their own traditions.
So not just like different interpretations, but different source material entirely.
Sometimes, yeah. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, man, those really threw a wrench in the whole single canon idea. Well, you find familiar stuff, sure, but also all these writings that never made it into what we call the Bible.
Like what? What kind of stuff?
Some of them, they're like different versions of Bible stories we know.
Okay.
Others, though, they're totally unique. Different takes on God, on how to live a religious life. The variety is incredible. Like at Qumran, they had this Book of Jubilees, not in our Old Testament,
Right, right.
but it wasn't just valued. Some folks considered it divine revelation, like more important than some books that did make the cut later on.
Wow. Okay, so what we call Bible, not Bible now. So that's all like decided later. Not about what mattered back then.
Exactly. And that leads us to another tricky thing, this idea of the original text. We toss that around a lot. But every book in the Bible, it's got a history of changes, edits, different versions floating around different communities.
So there's not one right one.
Exactly. Like take Jeremiah, the Masoretic text, the one a lot of English Bibles use. Way different from the version in the Septuagint, that's the old Greek translation. And then, to make it more interesting, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they give us another version.
Oh, man. So how do you even know which Jeremiah is one to trust?
There it is. That's the question, right? Makes us rethink everything. Maybe it's not about finding the correct version at all. Maybe it's about realizing there's this whole tapestry, different interpretations, different traditions, all woven together around these texts.
Okay, mind officially blown. This changes how you think about the whole thing. So, okay, if there's no one right version, how do you even approach this? How do you make sense of the Bible with all this complexity?
It's about shifting your perspective, really. Instead of this hardline Bible, not Bible, what if it's more like a continuum?
A continuum, okay.
Yeah, like imagine a river, right? All these different tributaries flowing into it.
Okay, I can picture that.
Each one of those, that's a different text, a different thread of tradition all coming together. Stories being told and retold, rewritten, reinterpreted over generations. And those rewritten Bible texts, like Jubilees, they become super important.
Because they're not just copies, they're like their own branch of the tradition, right?
Exactly. They're showing us these other versions of stories, different ways people understood those key figures, even God, all circulating back then. It's like you're piecing together this huge puzzle,
Right.
and every text adds another piece to the picture.
So it's not this one complete story. It's more like, I don't know, a kaleidoscope, all these different angles.
I like that. And this way of looking at it, it changes how we deal with those gaps,
Gaps.
In the Bible, where you're reading and it's like, wait, what happened there? Why'd they leave that out?
Oh, right, right.
Like Midrash, with all the rabbinic commentaries or those rewritten Bible texts, maybe they're not just filling the gaps.
They're giving us the other versions that were always there.
Exactly. It's not adding to something complete. It's like these alternative takes were part of the tradition all along, not hidden, just on a different part of the river.
Okay, so then how do we even deal with that? As people reading this stuff now, what does it even mean for us?
It means we have a choice.
Yeah.
Every time you pick up a Bible, any translation, you're choosing a specific path.
A choice. You don't just mean like which version of the Bible I buy. Right. There's more to it.
Oh, way more. every translation, it's making choices about the ancient texts themselves.
Yeah.
Like which ones mattered most, which manuscripts they thought were the most accurate, reliable, all that went into it.
Huh. So when I'm holding, like, a King James version or something, it's
Right.
not just that book. It's like centuries of decisions,
Exactly.
debates between scholars, maybe even, theological arguments, all bundled up in there.
That's it. And I know that can sound kind of overwhelming, but honestly, it's also like really powerful.
How so? I think it'd make it harder to know what to do with any of it.
See, here's the thing.
Hmm.
It means we're not just along for the ride.
Yeah.
We're not stuck with one fixed text.
Right.
We get to be part of this whole conversation. These traditions, they've been flowing for ages, and we get to jump in.
So what's someone who's curious supposed to do with that? How do we even read the Bible with all this in mind?
Become a detective. A text detective, that's what I always say.
Okay, love that.
Don't be afraid to compare different translations, look at the footnotes, all that stuff. Ask questions about the choices that were made.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of scholarship out there that helps make sense of it all. You can really appreciate the history, all the richness.
Text detective, like uncovering clues in some old mystery novel, only it's about ideas.
Exactly. And the more you learn about it all, the more you realize how complex it is, how much variety there was in the Bible's history.
This has been wild, gotta say.
Yeah.
Changed how I think about this whole thing. It's all about letting go of those old assumptions, embracing the fact that these texts, they were dynamic, never just one right answer.
So for all you text detectives out there listening, one last thing to ponder. If you were putting together a Bible today from scratch with all this ancient stuff to choose from, what would be in it? And what tough choices would you face along the way? Keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and happy reading, everybody.